Hi, everybody. I'm going to now just go through some of the processes that we take all clients through. This process is basically um, enabling us to try and make it simpler and easier for us to get the work done, but also make sure that we know what's happening, that you have a place to secure your information securely. One of the biggest issues that we have in accounting firms now is that obviously with cyber security, we can't just email documents to you anymore with your personal information in it. So it's got to be password protected. But with an accounting firm, sometimes there's a lot of documents that we might have to email through, or you might need to email through documents to us. We're trying to reduce that risk of that stuff going through emails. And so what we've done is we've tried to find a portal or a place where we can use a software system that enables us to use that system for both of us. And so I'm just going to explain that process to you, and we're trialing this out, and we believe this will be the way going forward unless we find something better. So I'm just going to share my screen. The first thing I want to do is I want to talk about, I'll get rid of that. We've already talked about that. Is I want to show you what we do from a tax checklist point of view. So this is just an example of a tax checklist. So what happens with us is that we will ask you, what type of returns you need to have completed. So there might be the individual return, there might be a company return, you might have a self-managed super fund return. For each of those different returns, we will send you the checklist. So for everybody who's an individual, they must fill in this tax checklist. If you've already filled in you've given us like your date of birth and email and mobile and stuff, you don't need to fill in all of that again. But what we do want you to do is we want you to actually indicate here, which is the most important thing. Where did you earn your income from? So it's just quickly ticking the boxes. And then what kind of expenses did you incur throughout the year? We need that for each of the different things. So whether you've got a property, we'll send you a property tax checklist. You'll indicate your income, you'll indicate the expenses, whether you've sold any assets. That's really important because it gives us an idea as to what documents we need to request from you so that we can make sure that we're covering off on that as part of your return. A lot of you might say, oh, yeah, a lot of that information is in the ATO portal. Well, actually, some information is not. So, for instance, what happens if some of you put, and here's the classic example, you put some personal contributions into super. Well, the ATO is not going to know that. And so what we need to do is we need to ask you, or you need to indicate that you've put some money into super. We need to then ask, have you got the intent to claim form filled in and you've received the letter from your super fund? And so that we can get a copy of that. And that'll be one of those documents that we need to verify and see so that we can make sure you can get a deduction if that's what you're trying to do, which is to get a deduction for that personal contribution. So that's just an example of one thing that doesn't flow through from the ATO portal that we'll be asking of you. Even with dividends, sometimes we've seen that clients will have been paid dividends. The ATO does send some information through, but unfortunately they don't send all the information through. And so sometimes we have to then chase down the client to say, hey, can you give us those dividend reports or the HIN numbers or something that enables us to check to see if the information is correct. So we send you, first of all, the tax checklist. The other thing that we then do, once we've got the tax checklist, is we're going to create your own file invite folder. This is a secure platform that you'll log into. And this is where we're going to do all the work going forward until we've completed all your returns. So you're all going to get an invite to your own file invite. What we're going to do is each person gets their own URL, a unique URL for their own file invite. We're going to ask you to basically come into this folder here, and we're going to ask you to basically, put in or type in your URL, so copy in your URL. The reason being is that if you don't, you might forget the URL. You might not find the email. It might get deleted out of your system. And if it's saved here, you can go back and retrieve it. If you can't find it, then you can always then ask us, and we can then go in here and grab your URL and send it back to you. Now, the reason we do that, because we can resend the file invite, but that is an additional cost to you, okay? Because every time we send out a file invite to a client, it costs us about $5. And so we want to make sure that you get one, and we're not sending you multiple, and you're not paying for additional fees. So if you copy your URL and put it in here, that's the first thing we're going to ask you to do. And that's just the URL is basically this thing up here. So at the top here, you'll see here, that's what's called a URL. It's you copy it when you open up your file invite, because that URL, well, you'll get it in the email as well, what you click onto to go to file invite. That's what we want you to copy in. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then the other thing is that we're going to get you to remain in file invite when you do the work. So every time there's work to be done, you're going to file invite. And you're going to be either uploading. We're going to put documents in here from the ATO website that we need. We're going to put your tax checklists in here. We're going to then be asking you to provide us any documentation that we don't have, any other income type of documents. If you've got financials, hopefully we'll get access to the MYOB or the Xero, or you'll send them to us. We'll put that in here as well. So we'll basically uploading all your documents into here. What will happen is that in your file invite, you're going to have a message system up here every time you've done something. So we don't want you to complete the file invite. We will complete it. Never close off your file invite. Only us to close off your file invite. But if you've completed some part of a request that we've asked of you, there'll be a part in your file invite, a message system, where you'll type a message to us and you'll basically send us a message within file invite. We get notified of that, and we're going to do the same for you. We're going to jump into file invite. We're going to do something like either ask you for further documentation, further request, and we're going to send that message via file invite. If we think you haven't gone into file invite to see the message, that should be a notification by email, we'll either text or email you separately to say, please go into your file invite. We've actually sent you some work to be done. So one of the things that we'll do after you've loaded up all your documentation, we'll start working on your return. Then I will put together questions. And then what we'll do is we'll actually then include the questions. Okay, so we'll get down to tax queries here, and we'll be sending you the tax queries, and we're saying, hey, we've basically uploaded a Word document. It has all the tax queries included. We'd like you to download that Word document from File Invite, work on the Word document from your own folder, and then basically upload the document back into File Invite. And so then we'll have a look at your queries. We'll then work on your return again. And then if there's any other queries, we'll resend the queries back to you. We'll say in the message system, hey, there's more queries that we'd like you to address. And we'll continue to do that until we've finalized it. And then obviously we then try and finalize the return. For those who have got self-managed super funds, there might be then audit requirements. And so we'll then say, hey, look at the audit document. There will be then signature pages for each of the returns. We'll ask you to sign, the documents and to upload those. And so we're just going to be using file invite all the way through until everything is complete, until we've got the notice of assessments or we said it's completed, and then we close it off. So basically it's just a tax checklist. It's an online form, and that's secure. And then there's just file invite, which is the system that everybody's going to try and use. If you still want to bring documents here, you can. And so there's no problem bringing documents to the office. We'll scan it in and we'll put it into your folder. But we do encourage you to try and use this system because you can do it from home. Most people have documents on their computers. They don't need to have paper forms anymore. They don't need to print it off, put it in a folder. You literally can just, your bank statements and everything could be saved on your desktop, and then you can just upload it straight into here. Really simple process. And we hope this will help with the whole, from start to go of getting your returns completed. Okay, so that is our process, is tax checklists. So you'll get tax checklists, ask you to fill those in. Once you've done those, you'll then be sent to your file invite. So if I go back there, and so then you'll be going through this whole process of file invite. And at the top of file invite, you'll have a message system where you can message us. We'll get notifications. We can message you. You get the notifications. And so then we go through that process. So pretty straightforward. So that's how we do it. I hope that makes it easy for you to understand. It's I feel as though a lot of clients who have tried this, they haven't found it too difficult. And so the key thing is, though, once you get your first URL, make sure you grab that URL and put it in here and save it, because I do have probably, 5% of clients going, oh, I can't find the URL. I've lost that email. Can you resend file invite to us? And we don't want to send you a new file invite. we want to send you the same file invite, or we want to basically, have that information stored that we already had before. But it does cost us every time we have to resend. That's how file invite works. Is it's a per user cost. But if you lose the URL, then it's another user cost. And so we're going to pass on that cost to you, rather than us keep absorbing that cost if you, for some reason, you forgot or you don't know where your URL is. So that's the first thing. Put that in there. That's really important. Okay. All right. So that's our process. Again, we've talked about where our address is. I've already explained that unfortunately we won't be able to take Joe's office. That's not Joe's fault. We were intending to do that. We just had issues with the landlord. And so, and not bad issues, it's just we just couldn't agree on terms. And so then we've decided, okay, well, we've got our own office anyway, so hopefully that's not a big deal for anyone. Our processes, file invite, for some of you, this will be a new process. I hope you find it a useful process and an easy one to go through. Again, if you're not sure you want to be on board with us, so if you think you're not sure you want to be on board, because we obviously do things a little bit differently. I'm not Joe. Okay, I'm Warren, and so our team do things a little bit differently than what Joe might have done for you. You don't need to come on board with us. There is plenty of accountants out there. So this is the opportunity now for you to choose. Okay, do I like what I see? Do I want to go through those processes that they take us through? If so, please come on board. Sign the engagement letter. We will look after you. But if you don't feel comfortable, please don't sign. There's no pressure to do so. We're not requiring you to do so. It's not that we need you to do so. It's totally up to you. Okay. And that's part of how I do business. You need to feel comfortable with the person you're working with. So thank you so much for allowing me to go through the processes, showing you where we are. And I hope to see you next year. Thanks so much.